Hey everyone, it's time for part 2 of the Perfect Budget Home Server. This being part 2 means part 1 is pretty much required viewing, so go give it a watch if you haven't yet. As a quick recap, if you have seen it, in part 1 we learned a little bit about DNS and how we can use that to block ads on our local network. And while blocking ads is rarely useful, we're going to install a couple of things on the Pi in this video that'll really take it up to the next level and make it the perfect budget home server. I've been running these services for a couple of years, and really there's nothing else that I've found that I've needed. There's entertainment, it stays up while the power's down, and I can manage all of it in whatever way I need. So what are these great applications I keep talking about? Well, Filebrowser, Jellyfin, Calibre, and network UPS tools. Filebrowser will show us our files in the browser, kind of like a Google Drive, except for the files that we have on the server. Jellyfin will act as our media server, allowing us to view and store and keep track of movies and series and all of those wonderful little bits of entertainment. Calibre is an ebook server, which allows us to read ebooks and convert them to different formats for different devices on our network. And finally, network UPS tools is network UPS tools. It allows us to view and configure details about an uninterruptible power supply for when the power goes out. Apparently waving my arms around has allowed me to get my step goal for the day. Nice. So of course the little disclaimer in here that there may be better ways to set this up. I'm not a web development professional, I'm not a server administrator, but it's worked for me for a good couple of years. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So I've SSH'd into the Pi, and the first thing we want to do is ensure the hard drive is plugged in. So to do that, we just run ls-usb. You can see it's plugged in here. Next, we run fdisk-l, and we get a whole bunch of stuff, but what we're looking for is the device details of our external, and there it is, dev sda1. Make a note of that. Linux is a bit different to Windows. It doesn't automatically make the drive available for access. We need to tell the operating system where to mount the drive, so we create a mount point. We also need to change the ownership of the permissions on the folder so we don't have any issues down the line. Next, we need to adjust the file system tables to auto-mount the drive on boot. But first we need some info. To get it, run sudo blockid and look for the device we found earlier. Make a note of the UUID. Next, open up etc/fs tab with sudo and place the following in there. Make sure that the UUID and mount point match. Now, reboot. Back on the Pi, the easiest way to check that the drive is mounted is by checking all mounts. Run cat proc mounts and look for our device and ensure that the mount point is what we set it as. So now that we have that set up, let's talk about how we access that external hard drive. We could use scp all the time, which is a terminal command, and that does come in useful sometimes. But much more practical is an application called FileZilla. FileZilla is a free program available on most operating systems. You enter in the Pi's IP, username and password, set the port to 22 and hit Quick Connect. We mounted the hard drive under Media Pi Storage, so we need to use the GUI to get there. In FileZilla, we can right-click and create folders, we can drag and drop, and we can even drag and drop between our PC and the Pi in either direction. But let's be real, sometimes you don't want to use an application, you have a browser installed, why not just use the browser? So, to do that, we're going to install Filebrowser. Back on the Pi, start by running this command to install Filebrowser. Next, we need to configure it. We're going to put the configuration file in var lib filebrowser, so make that directory. Then Filebrowser looks for a .filebrowser config file, and we're going to use JavaScript object notation to write ours, as it's easy to read. So create that file in the config directory and paste in the following contents. This gives Filebrowser the bare minimum it needs to operate. We're only going to share the hard drive on the web interface, we don't want to share everything. Let's test our config and Filebrowser by running the following. If we open up Chrome and we log in with admin and admin, there we have it. Now's a really good time to change your username and password, so be sure to do that. We can also edit, view, and upload files. and we can even watch videos in the browser. Back in Terminal, we've ended the process. If we go back to Chrome, the web server isn't running. So what we're going to do is set up a daemon to run Filebrowser on startup. Create this file, and in it, we're essentially just pasting the command we ran earlier, plus some additional info. Then, we're going to start it and ensure it's back up and running.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
We just need to ensure that it runs on startup by running the enable command. And now whenever the PI starts, this service will start too. Right, we're almost done. We just need to set up Apache 2 and Pi-hole to set up the redirect for Filebrowser. We start by enabling some Apache 2 modules, as well as create the config of the site. You can paste in the following text. Now we can enable the site and restart Apache 2. If we go to Chrome, it doesn't work. We need to add the rule to our DNS rules. Log into the Pi-hole and navigate to settings. They're pretty similar, so I'm just going to copy them across. But let's call this one files. Let's go back and reload and log in. And that's Filebrowser. You have your own little Google Drive right on your personal network. Now obviously this isn't a perfect means of backing things up. If you would like a video on how to decently back up your files, let me know in the comments down below. But I find that it's pretty good in a pinch, so it's what I use. It's where I put a lot of my content, a lot of the videos that, you know, I've worked on and want to get off the hard drive of my PC. And I find it really cool that I can access those files on any device on my network. So it makes working on things a lot easier. So next, Jellyfin. Jellyfin is an open source media server, like Plex or Ambi, except features aren't hidden behind paywalls. First, we need to update the Raspberry Pi firmware. Run sudo rpi-update. If you do have an update, reboot your Pi after the update before continuing. Next thing to do is I wrote a script for you to use, which does a lot of the stuff for you. So, run this command, give it execution permissions, and run it as sudo. It'll install Jellyfin, do the configuration for hardware acceleration, create and enable the Apache config, and adjust the Pi-hole config to add the site too. The script does assume you've been using the same IP address and hostname as I have been so far, but if you haven't, you should still be able to easily adjust the Apache 2 configuration and the Pi-hole config to get it to work. Once that's done, we go to media.raspberrypi in our browser. This is the first page we see. Set your username and password. I like to use the same username and password for most of the apps on the Pi, but of course it's up to you. Generally though, different things, different passwords. That's a rule. Now we can go ahead and add libraries. Movies, series, photos, anything we want. Now of course I'm not advocating for piracy after all. But if you do happen to own the original Spider-Man trilogy on DVD with Tobey Maguire, which is obviously the best trilogy, and you don't want to risk losing it because you're worried that your discs might get scratched, and honestly, physical media is an outdated medium and you're not even sure you have a means of reading them anymore, and you are able to convert your discs to a digital copy, should that be allowed? I don't know, I'm not the cops, it's my property, I should be able to do what I want with it, but I'm not suggesting that you should do that. I'm not saying I did. I'm going to add movies, call it movies, and add a video folder I created on the Pi drive earlier. Set the preferred language and country to that of your choice, and save the metadata as NFO. Add as many libraries as you want, and when you're done, click Next. Set your metadata settings and click Next. Leave this page as default, hit Next, and log in. And there it is, there's our videos on the Pi. We can even watch the little FileZilla segment I recorded earlier. And all in the browser. Though we're not quite done with things yet. We still need to do the last few settings for hardware acceleration. Go to Settings under Admin, select Dashboard. Click Playback and set the hardware acceleration to Open Max OMX. Scroll down and click Save. Now the reality is the Pi isn't the biggest of powerhouses when it comes to media playback, so sometimes Jellyfin might not work out too well. And in that case, I like to use VLC. VLC is great, and if you aren't using it as a media player, you should really download it. It's available on all operating systems, and even your phone, which is really great when you're lying in bed and you want to watch a video on your file server, you can just go for it. Jellyfin has a really nice Android app as well. 10 out of 10 recommend. To watch a video in VLC, select Universal Plug and Play, and then there it is. It'll show all your libraries. It does add some categories under the surface, but it's relatively easy to navigate if you know what you're looking for and what you're wanting to watch. And that's the setup of Jellyfin. So I tried for a solid time to get Calibre working on the Pi 3, and I couldn't quite get it there. I don't know why, if something's changed or something along those lines, but it's installed and running on my Pi 4, which is the primary server I use. So keep an eye on the GitHub page to see if I've learned anything. And if you know anything about getting Calibre installed on the Pi 3, please drop it in the description down below. And that's it, we're pretty much done. That's Filebrowser, Jellyfin, and Calibre, and that's all the entertainment. Oh, damn it. Escom sub. So if you live in South Africa, you're almost definitely going to want a UPS. And you're also probably going to want a light source better than a match. So Network UPS Tools, also known as Node, has been around for a very long time and is a great way of monitoring and keeping up to date on the status of your UPS, as well as adjusting some of the settings. So for example, I have a RCT 2000 VA which keeps me going during load shedding. And the thing about that UPS is that it beeps, like really annoyingly. So I just use Node to turn off that beeping and monitor the voltage level, see if I need to replace the batteries and such before a power outage happens and my UPS runs out halfway through. The trick about nuts though, I can't keep a straight face while saying that name. Oh, the internet has ruined me. Anyway, the thing about Network UPS Tools, and hello, say hi, hey. The thing about Network UPS Tools is it depends on your UPS, your configuration. So as opposed to going through a whole guide here, I'm just going to point you in the direction of the GitHub page if you're interested. Be sure to check it out. It's got a lot of information about what we've covered in the server setup. And that's pretty much it. With all that installed, you now have the ultimate budget home server. So as always guys, thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions or queries or criticisms or comments, or if you have any suggestions on other tools I could run on my home server to even make it betterer, let me know in the comments down below. Share this with your friends because it's a great project to work on and it's a really nice introduction, a really simple introduction too, into server management and improving your home network. Thanks for watching guys, I'll see you in the next one.